Hey everybody, this is Dana with CoachDanaInspires.com, and we are so happy you're here for today's business inspiration. And we are here to inspire business leaders to go forward to do the best they can after this tremendous year in COVID. And today our guest is Mary Schmid, and we are so happy to be talking to Mary Schmid today because we're going to be talking about using brain science. Wait a minute, brain science, the brain science of conversations, right? To build high trust relationships. I don't know about you, but I think that's going to be really important moving forward. So hello, Mary. How are you? What's going on? How's your family? Everybody well?
Hello, Dana. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be a guest on your show. I'm really honored and proud to be here. And how are things here? I'm happy. It's exciting times. There's challenges, but I say with every challenge, there's an opportunity to solve a problem in a different way. So I just see things reopening and revitalizing. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of this exciting time, yikes, your business associates, your clients, the people you talk to all the time, are they being pretty optimistic? Are they kind of wait and see? What are you hearing out there in the rumble?
So I'm hearing a sense of optimism in the state of transition that we're in. And it's like, what is it going to look like to go forward? You know, here in Minneapolis, you can drive down the street and see the destruction of all of the goings on in the last year, whether it be the COVID or the riots or the political and social unrest. But then you drive, 6 blocks down the road from the destruction and you see new businesses opening up and a revitalization of the neighborhood. So I think it's a mixed bag. We're in a state of transition and we're wondering, like, what is it going to be like to go forward? And that's a real opportunity.
Yeah. And so most of our viewers are entrepreneurs, business owners. A lot of us may be working for other companies. We may be leaders in that company. So what can we do? What can we do now that we're over a year of this crazy thing? What can we do now to really jump ahead, move forward to make a big difference?
So we look at the past to move forward into the future. And I think one thing that we've learned over the last 18 months, that we as human beings have a deep desire to be connected with one another.
Yeah.
Desire to be connected. I think the second thing that we learned is that we're all in this together. No matter where you are or how you are, the big picture is we're all in together. And I think the one thing that we can learn, take that learning and simply say, going forward in my business as a leader, as an employee, as a person and a human being, is to learn how to talk with people in a different way that creates a connection.
I think that is a powerful statement that we really need to talk. We need to speak with each other, not to.
Exactly.
That's with, not to.
Mm-hmm. Because when you think about it, Dana, everything we do starts with a conversation. And the quality of the conversation that we have with other people determines the quality of the relationship and whether we trust one another or not. It's that simple.
I like that. And I know that just from my personal experience, it's, sometimes you meet people and you have this instant connection. And I think so often it's because I feel they heard me and I feel like I had a chance to hear them, so you can really, so you talk about the science of, good grief. So what goes on in the brain during these conversations? What happens up here?
What happens up here is exactly what you said. So let's take for an example. There's a constant chemical and emotional interaction that goes on in our brain. And the conversations that go on signal different parts of the brain.
Okay.
So we're in a conversation right now, and I don't know about you, but it feels pretty comfortable.
Yes.
We share, we go back and forth, we can express our opinions, we don't worry about what we're going to say next. What really happens in the brain is that the prefrontal cortex, the executive brain, is triggered. by a flood of oxytocin. And when it gets triggered, it's open to connect, to problem solve, to relate, to discover.
All that's going on right now.
All this is going on right now as we're speaking. It's constant. We don't see it, but we feel it. Yeah. You can feel like you're listening to me. You can feel that there's a connection. Well, it's better than just a good feeling. There's science behind that. And the science is when we are triggered and our brain gets flooded with oxytocin, the social bonding chemical, our conversations become open. And when we're open, we trust, because trust lives in the prefrontal cortex. Now, take another situation and put that in reverse. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a conversation that, it just didn't go the way that you thought it would?
Yeah.
And what did that feel like?
Yeah, it felt bad. It felt uncomfortable. I felt disconnected. Yeah. I felt like I didn't want to talk to them again.
Yeah, and so what happens is the reverse is that when we feel that the conversation just didn't go right, something was triggered in our brain that was different than what we knew. Or maybe the person talked all the time. They talked about themselves and we couldn't get a word in edgewise. What happens is our brain is wired to protect us, and it kicks in like, protect, this person isn't safe, they're not. So the amygdala gets activated, showers the brain with cortisol, the stress hormone, and we completely shut down. So what happens is while we want to, it's like a stoplight. When the green is on, we're ready to go and connect and to talk with one another. But when the red goes on, we shut down and we withdraw, and we don't say really what's on our mind. We're not honest with one another. And when that happens, the prefrontal cortex completely shuts down. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said something and you thought, I don't even know what to say?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to respond to this.
That happens rarely to me, but yes, it does happen. Yeah, because sometimes it's so shocking or so disconnected that you really, that there isn't something to say. That's right. True. What is that? Is that the little stop sign?
That's a little stop sign that's on. You simply don't know what to say. And so many of us will just blurt out the first thing that comes out of our mouth, which may not always be the right thing to say.
Yes, that's correct.
So, even though we have good intentions to talk with one another and learn about one another and understand each other, good intentions are not enough, because it's the things that we say and how we say them that triggers different parts of the brain, where we either open up and connect, or we shut down and protect.
So would you say that if you have to have a hard conversation, let's say with an employee, or you have a hard conversation, maybe you want to talk to your boss about, something that's a difficult conversation, is it better to kind of have a foundation laid before you start this thing? Because if you have a foundation, maybe there's already trust and understanding. Is that?
Yeah, that's one of the most critical steps that's the most critical thing that we can do, is to prepare ourselves for conversations, whether they're difficult or not difficult, but to prepare ourselves so that we can literally trigger our own brain into being open and more receptive. We can trigger our brain to have that flood of oxytocin by how we prepare ourselves.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, and I think the other piece of it is that there's different kinds of conversations that we have. Most of us have good intentions to connect and lead and include other in conversations, but yet when we get triggered, we go into what I call a telling conversation. And it sounds like, this is what you need to do. Here's how you need to do it. Do you have any questions? We tell, we explain, we show data, we put a plan together, and we say, okay, any questions? And what that does to the person on the receiving end is they completely shut down. They don't feel involved, included. None of us like to be told what to do, do we?
No, I guess not. That's very true. And even though we have good intentions, as you said, it doesn't always work for us. I have the best of intentions on telling you something, and then it goes totally the wrong way. Why does it go the wrong way?
Well, because when we're in conversations, we think that we have the upper hand. We think we're going to help people by telling them what to do. Sometimes it's that we think that we have the upper hand. We might be a leader and think that we're right and we have to have all of the answers. So we tell people we're going to shorten their learning curve. We're going to help them out. We're going to be thoughtful, and here's what you need to do. And what's interesting is when that doesn't work out, when telling them doesn't work out, we slip into what I call a level 2 conversation. It's a selling conversation. And then out come the data and the charts and the graphs. Here's what you need to do. Here's my experience. Here's the data. You would agree, wouldn't you? And the more we talk, because our brain gets a hit of dopamine, the reward chemical. And the more we talk, the better we feel. And off we go, lickety split. We've just overrun the conversation. We're talking all the time. And the other person across from us can't get a word in edgewise. In fact, they feel manipulated or controlled, or like you had this sort of like hidden agenda all along. Why didn't you just come right out and say it? They then shut down and stop listening to you. There's no trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting, Dana, is that when we look at the research, that most of our conversations, if you can believe this, live in either telling or selling. That's what we're programmed to do.
Okay.
We're rewarded for telling people.
Sorry, that's not always the best thing, though. We shouldn't always be I mean, there are times, hey, the house is on fire, get out. I mean, that's a different story, but that's not a conversation. But we should be having a conversation instead of slipping into the telling and selling. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing. Correct. And in order to do that, we have to have what I call a level 3 conversation, Dana, and that's where we share and discover.
Got it.
It counts on us to be willing to learn, willing to be open, willing to let other people influence us, and really willing to listen to them.
And that happens when you trust them.
Exactly. Because when I can share with you what my experiences are, or what my point of view was, or why I think this project didn't work out, or what's going on that stopped me, and you listen to me, my green lights go on, because you're not going to judge me. You're not going to condemn me. You're not going to make me wrong. Wanting to understand me rather than tell me and persuade me that it didn't work out. Well, I already know that, don't I?
Yeah. No, that's very true. Yeah. And I've worked for people and with people who, they're all that in a bag of chips. And so when they come in, they kind of like dump on you, and you kind of go like that to them instead of listening. Yeah, that's true stuff.
Exactly. The red stuff goes on. It's like, oh my God, here we go again. Another conversation, the same old. And you tune out. You tune out.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the most critical skill in these conversations? And is it the telling and selling that we're doing wrong, or is there more to it than that?
There's more to it than that, because there's room for every level of conversation. Like you said earlier, so if it's a crisis, we need to tell people what to do. It's not like, well, let's have a discussion and figure out how we're going to get out of this burning building. No, this is what we need to do, and this is what we need to do now.
Right.
The most critical skill that we have to develop is what I call listening to connect. And here's the brain science behind it. We think that we're good listeners. Dana, how many times have you been told, well, all you need to do is listen more and talk less?
Lots. Yeah.
That's the rule of thumb. So you want to get along with people, listen more, talk less. But I say, well, if we know that, why don't we do it? And that's where brain science comes in. Why don't we listen more and talk less is because, for number one, the spoken word gets processed in our brain very quickly. So
Okay.
before you're done explaining or telling me what I want, telling me what I need to know, my brain has skipped ahead 10 steps and it's already solved the problem. But not only has it solved the problem, as I'm listening to you, I've already made a judgment that you're wrong or you're right, and this is what I need to do to correct you and set you straight. Further, this is even more interesting in conversations. We drop out. We are listening dropouts. We drop out of conversations every 12 to 18 seconds. And where do we go, Dana? Where do we go? We go inside and think about what we think about what they said, whether they're right or they're wrong, and how we just have that better answer. And so it's like a listening dropout is like it's a 3-ring circus going on in conversations. You're speaking and I'm sort of pretend listening. I'm a listening dropout. So I've heard a few words, but I'm busy thinking in my mind, running through my head all the different scenarios. What's going on here? What am I going to say next? How am I going to fix this? And we completely disconnect from the content and what the person is trying to say. And so we may catch up in a couple words, or we might, get lazy and simply say, I get it. I get it. You don't know what you're getting. Or like, that's interesting. And then move on with our agenda.
Yeah.
So can you imagine what the other person is thinking and feeling?
Yeah. This is not a good conversation. So does this kind of fall into the same bucket, or is there another bucket for, have you ever had a conversation where someone, you're talking to them, but they're always kind of looking beyond you, and like they're looking for someone more important than you? Oh, that's nice, Mary. Oh, right, Mary. Why even bother? Why even bother standing there and pretend? Is that another bucket, or is this that same thing going on?
That's the same bucket, because that's the response, and the chemical reaction that goes on our brain when we're not listened to is exactly that. Like, why did you call this meeting? Why are you even talking to me? You knew all along what your agenda was, but I have no place in here. I say, I don't have a seat at the conversational table. It's all about you, what's important to you and what you think. And me, I shut down.
Yeah.
I won't talk to you. I won't tell you what's on my mind. I won't have creative problem solving, different solutions, different way of looking at things. I am too afraid because you've taken over the conversation.
Yeah. And if we're going to be like that, then here's a piece of paper, read it, and I'll talk to you later. I mean, why pretend like we're talking? Here's the instructions and go. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And what I've learned along the way, Dana, is there's nothing wrong with people's ability to trust. We need to learn that these different levels of conversation impact people, and how we can change and modify how we talk, how we listen, how open we are to let other people have some conversational space.
I know several people who need this skill. I know several people who would use this skill. So do you have some tips? I don't know. Do you have 2, 3, 4 tips? I don't know, however many tips you got there to get this, to practice this. How do we do this?
Yes, and I love when you brought up that this is a skill. This is a skill. We're not born with it. It doesn't naturally develop, but it's a skill that we can learn. And the first tip that I have is you need to prepare yourself for a conversation. Okay. You need to clear the cobwebs out of the attic and just get really quiet and present. Take a deep breath, and instead of thinking about and worrying about what you're going to say, focus on the other person. What is it like to be them? What might be going on in their world? What might be their situation? But the most important question is to ask, what is it like for them to be sitting across from me? Breathe and imagine that you're going to do your very best in leading a conversation where other people are heard, seen, and valued. Now you're ready to go. It sounds so simple, but most people don't do it. They run around from meeting to meeting, conversation to conversation. They distracted. They don't give people their attention. Because the thing is, you know, before you and I even start a conversation, I read your energy. Within 10 feet of first seeing you before words are spoken, I read your energy. And if you're all frazzled and harried and in a hurry, I'm going to interpret that as this is not going to be a friendly conversation. You're too busy for me. I don't count. I'm going to read it and make an interpretation. Now, it may not be accurate at all, but that's the danger. Versus someone that starts a conversation, imagine your shoulders are back, you're relaxed, like you begin our conversation. How are you? What's going on?
Yeah.
Totally different energy.
Got it.
Putting the person that you're speaking to in the center of the conversation. The second tip that I have is knock off, stop this. How's the weather?
Oh.
How is the traffic? What's going on? And instead, this is what I call the $1 million opener. Instead, open your conversation with an emotional connection. And it sounds something as simple as, I'm really happy that we can share time together today.
Woo.
And let it land. Let it land. I've been looking forward to meeting with you.
Mm-hmm.
And let it land.
Okay.
What you've done is you've just triggered the oxytocin. You've just triggered the feel-good feeling.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
When I work with my clients, we've nicknamed this $1 million opener because it's not just how you open a conversation face-to-face or on Zoom. It's in every communication that you have. So imagine that I'm setting an appointment with you. Oh, we're looking forward to seeing you, blah, blah, blah. Happy that you can come in. Then I come and I meet with the executive assistant or the receptionist, and she greets me and says, I'm really happy that you're here today. We're happy to see you. I'm glad that you're here. And then imagine you start the conversation by simply saying, you know, I've been looking forward to spending time with you. Come on in.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. You've now just done what I call prime the pump to make this a safe conversation, an inclusive conversation, and that you're invited to the conversational table.
Nice. Nice. I love that. And when someone calls you, like, I know somebody that, like, they'll get a phone call, you know, this is Bob. Hey, Bob, how you doing? I'm good. And then there's this weird pause, and the other person is going, well, you know, usually it's, I'm good, how are you? But this person just goes, I'm good. And it's always this weird, awkward, like, the other person doesn't know what to do. And you know, it's, so you're saying it's good to say, I'm glad to talk to you. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. And then to respond back, that gives that emotional openness to be able to talk and have a good conversation. Is that what that's about?
It signals the brain that it's safe and it's that we're in a conversation, that I'm here for you, that I'm available for you, that I want to hear what you have to say. Without even saying that, it just signals that. And you know, I say when people say, well, how are things? Oh, I'm good. Then I'll pause a minute and simply say, so what does good mean?
Yeah.
What's good? Oh, I don't know. It's not been a very, or well, I've got exciting news or whatever. Well, you know, I haven't thought much about that, but now that you ask me, what's good in my world? Yeah. What's good in my world?
Yeah.
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 People, when they're having staff meetings, for example, instead of like, here's the agenda, let's get down to business, and simply saying, okay, so what's your personal best this week? What are you proud about? What's gone well? You need support with. Because the third tip that I have is we put our agenda and what we think is important to people without asking them what's important to them.
Okay.
So we get to the meeting and here's the agenda. Here's what we're going to talk about. Boom, we're right into business. Slow down a couple minutes and simply say, what else is there? What are you thinking about? What's important for you that we cover today? Yeah, we've got the agenda. I prepared the agenda, which says I prepared for you. I prepared my meeting. And here it is. Let's take a look at this together.
Yeah.
And is there something we need to, that's more pressing, something that's important for you to talk about?
Yeah.
Particularly in client conversations. We want to get down to the business and get our agenda and get everything done and said our way. But when we open up the space for them, it's an incredible, respectful thing. Like, what's on your mind? What's important that we cover today? Oh, okay. So I've thought about this. Here's what I prepared. Let's figure this out together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when the conversations go sideways, as they will, conversations are unpredictable. We can go back and simply say, is it most important that we figure this out and talk through this? And can these other things wait? How would you like to proceed? Another invitation, another invitation. It's what I call co-creating together.
Love it.
You have some ideas, I have some ideas, and when we put them together, Dana, we come up with the best possible solution, the best possible option, because our brains are firing together. We're both on green.
Yeah. Yeah.
Open to trust. We're open to share. We're open to make mistakes and willingly admit them.
Yep.
Because I don't worry that you're going to punish me or threaten me or put me down.
Right. And what a great feeling that is to be in a conversation like that. Mary, I am stunned and my brain is exploding because we're out of time, and this is such wonderful information. It's powerful. I mean, it's really, really powerful. I hope our viewers are getting so much out of this. And Mary, the best way to get a hold of you, you really are on LinkedIn a lot. That's how people. Okay.
Yes, LinkedIn is my favorite platform.
Okay, super. I love LinkedIn too. It's a great place. So this is Mary Schmid. This is how you get a hold of Mary, or certainly get a hold of Mary Schmid on LinkedIn. I mean, she's there. Just look her up. You can find her. Here's her phone number. She does have a book. Where's your book there, Mary? Let's show that book.
Is right here, and it's called Make or Break Conversations.
And I think this is a great book. If you're a leader, or you're planning to be a leader, you want to be a leader, or you want to deal better with the people leading you, this is a book that really would help. Yeah. I think people could really get a lot out of this book.
And because when we understand what really is going on in a conversation, we have the power to lead an extraordinary conversation that connects people.
Yeah, I think this could be, I want to say life-changing, business-changing, but I'm teetering on, I want to say world-changing. That sounds a little like grandiose, like this could change the world. But if we all took conversations more seriously and really understood the other person, think what that would do. I mean, Mary, I'm so grateful that you shared this information with us today. I'm really thrilled because I do believe in changing the world one person at a time, and this is a way of doing it. So again, here's Mary's information. Get a hold of Mary on LinkedIn. By the way, she does have this book that's available. So contact her, see how you can get a hold of this book, contact her on LinkedIn. If I can be of any service to you, you have questions about any of these guests, you wanted to ask about Mary, I'm happy to tell you about Mary and what I know about her. She's fabulous, by the way. And or if you want to be a guest on the show, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. There's my information right there. And in the meantime, Mary, thanks so much for being here. This has been so much fun. I think we could talk for another half hour, but we can't. Thank you. And let's get out there, everybody, and change the way we deal with people, the way we have that conversation, and really start listening and caring about each other.
Thank you, Dana. That was really well said. And again, I appreciate it. I'm very grateful for being able to be a guest on your show. You do great work in inspiring all of us.
Well, thank you. And I'm so happy we've been here. So everybody, get out there, be inspired, and we'll see you next Tuesday on Business Inspiration. Bye, everyone.
Bye.